I'm Zachary Cartwright. This is Water in Food. Welcome to another episode of Water in Food. Today, my guest is Dr. Vivian Allen, who's a senior research scientist in product development at Hostess Brands. From new product conception to commercialization, Dr. Allen works in a fast-paced environment and is always looking for new solutions and technologies to improve her team's R&D processes. One recent addition to her laboratory is the ability to create dynamic dewpoint isotherms. And in this episode, we'll be learning about how she's using this data to save time and make predictions about new products. We will also be discussing how Meter Group has partnered with Hostess in all aspects of their production, from mastering their products in R&D, measuring their products for quality control, and managing products during production to make perfect products every time. Hi, Dr. Allen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Zachary.
Thank you for being here with us today. You know, I was looking at your LinkedIn and kind of looking at your background, and you have a PhD in food science and technology from South China University of Technology. You spent some time at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You've worked at Kellogg's and Chew and now Hostess. So you have quite the comprehensive background in food science. And I'm wondering, where did this passion for food science come from?
When I was a teenager, I really loved food, and I was even considered being a scientist. But at that time, I didn't decide what kind of science field I will be. But finally, I think the food science is very amazing. You can taste a lot of delicious food, and I still can have some from the chemistry and food science perspective to look at the food and make us heals and eat heals. So it's very cool. It's very cool in bakery, cereals. That's a field I'm very interested in, and think I be a scientist in this field.
And how did you hear of food science? Did you have a mentor or a friend or a department at school that encouraged you to get involved? How did you find food science?
Actually, my neighbor, he's a professor of University of Food Science. Actually, they are agricultural scientists, right? So that's a part of food science, agriculture product scientist. So have something relation with the food science. That's my first tutor and coach of my career. So it should be very interesting and amazing experience.
Mm-hmm. And you eventually ended up in product development. What brought you to product development? What are your favorite aspects of being in this department?
I think the most favorite factor of being in PD, like product development, is innovation
Mm-hmm.
and funny. Sometimes the challenges bring some new products and launch new products, serving the consumers in the best way possible, and make me have a full feeling. I just want to wow and delight the consumers and the people. Oh wow, this is good. We love it. Yeah, that's make me very
Mm-hmm.
exciting. It's my favorite part of product and development.
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in product development?
Yeah, if it's for a new product development, there's a lot of challenges faced. It really depends on what kind of project or new product we're working on. For example, limited timeline or ingredient sources, especially some functional ingredients LTO versions, or for example a natural color or flavor or cost, or even consumers inside. Sometimes we have the ideation, but we don't know exactly whether this kind of food design is really match the marketing or the consumers inside. Of course, food cost, also some technical challenges as lines, capabilities, or how we can keep the same shelf life or storage stability and something like that. So that's kind of challenges we're facing during their product development.
Yeah, all different types of challenges, and I'm sure, like you said, it really depends on the type of product that you're looking at. But we'll talk some more about those challenges and how you're tackling them here in a few minutes. I'm wondering, how many products do you work on at one time at Hostess? Are you just really focused on one thing and then you get it done and then you move to the next product, or you have all these projects at one time?
In general, I think maybe 3 to 5 products, but really depending on the size or complexities of the project. Sometimes
Hmm.
innovation or renovation or simple just the modification of really depends on timeline. For example, if their product is totally new or not have that before, or just a lot of changes, so the project might be last maybe in 1 or 2 years. But some project like
Hmm.
renovation just to change the flavor or inclusions or just like something like that, the same process way or no changes, just the flavor changes or color changes. So this project might be only maybe 6 months or less or something like that. It really depends. But in general,
Hmm.
I have like at least 3 or 5 at the same time. It depends on how big, what's the size of project.
And the timing was my next question. How long does it take to go from conception to commercialization? And like it sounds, it could be 6 months or 2 years. It really depends if you're maybe just changing the flavor or coming up with an entirely new product. So I'm sure there's a time range, but always the faster you can get these products out, the better. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct. Right. That's right.
Well, in the food industry, Meter Group primarily focuses on three major aspects to help our partners to be successful. And these solutions, I think they can be summarized by three keywords: mastering, measuring, and managing. And I'd kind of like to touch on each of these aspects today and how they're benefiting your team at Hostess. So let's start by mastering your products before mass producing them. I know that your team recently purchased an Aqualab vapor sorption analyzer. This is a one-of-a-kind moisture sorption isotherm generator, and you've been using your isotherm data and plugging it into the moisture analysis toolkit software to improve and speed up some of your R&D processes. So I just want to touch on some of the different ways that you're using moisture sorption isotherms and the insights that they're providing for new formulations and new products. So before the Aqualab VSA, were you familiar with moisture sorption isotherms? Were there something that you were using before?
Actually, I did that. So I did create isotherms, but not by the VSA or Collapse 3. I just manual calculation with the AW and the motion levy and make use these points to make our XY chart. So it's kind of like a very
Hmm.
handmade way. And then from this curve, by
Hmm.
collecting some data point to determine the storage conditions on grains or seeds goods. That's my working experience years ago before I have this kind of like Oclab 3 or VSA devices. So we made it by hands and mapping the ISO. So it's it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure it takes a really long time. How long would it take you to create an isotherm, and how many points would it be composed of?
Actually, if you spend 7 hours, for example, if you collect one AW for like flour or something like that, you need at least for
Hmm.
water activity, you definitely need I think maybe need 3 minutes or longer. But for motion level, it's a high motion like a piece of cake or something like that. You definitely need 30 minutes for one day. So
Hmm.
that's really a lot of time. So at least if we want to make our descent graphic by hands, by manual, so we definitely need click like a 10 or more than 10 date. So that's holiday, nearly holiday, or yeah, that's kind of like a lot of time course. But another way is the date collector might be not very accurate because the data is just
Hmm.
you need a lot of data, random data. You have to make a data analysis. So there's some data you have to kick away.
Yeah, it's very hands-on, and it can take you a really long time. I was wondering if you could kind of describe in your own words what is a moisture sorption isotherm. What does it show, and why is it important?
In my own words, I would say it's kind of a land map or chart to show the relations
Hmm.
between water activity and the motion levy on our typical food product. So if the food product is very stable, in general, the absorption and desorption isotherm, it could be very similar to it's kind of another identity. In my understanding, it's kind of identity to like her fixed conditions. Yeah, it's kind of like ID. Yeah. So if
Yeah, I
if
kind of
just
like to
like
think of it. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's kind of like another ID of a product. For example, if for example a piece of cake, so it's a cake is always like this way, like same formula, same ingredients. So use the same after bakery, you use the sample for create isotherm molder, and the molder won't change that much. If you
Hmm.
repeatedly use the same way. So I would say just like you are like another word, like the product's identity for the relationship between water activity and the motion level. I think that's very just to show it. Okay, that's you.
It's almost like a fingerprint in
Yes,
terms of
like a
water for
fingerprint.
that specific product. Yeah.
You're
And
right. Yeah, that's true.
what types of isotherms are you producing? Are you using a specific method to create these isotherms?
So I created this isotherm by absorption and the desorption. It's kind of like the lactic dewpoint. Yeah, it's most of like
Hmm.
the lactic dewpoint, and then collect this isotherm.
Right. So you're using that dynamic dew point method, and this gives you a really high resolution picture for each of your products, and then you might look at adsorption or desorption depending
Yes.
on the product. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And
Yes.
once you collect that data, what are some of the key R&D challenges that you're able to tackle once you have an isotherm?
That's why I think the setting, because it can set in the crack specific to maximum the moisture content for the
Hmm.
profit, while we can make the product my safety and quality, ensure the quality. Another is we can use this way to determine the critical water activity points to avoid the microbial growth or changes in the texture. Because for the fresh bakery, the critic water activity is very important to avoid the moldy. Yeah. And another is,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that that's a way we are very keen on, and that is predicting a shelf life. So the shelf life we can know early by this kind of isotherm model to provide predictions. So another is that we can better understanding the relationship between water activity and the temperature. So what the store temperature is, no temperature, a room temperature or higher temperature, how much that affect our product's quality and the shelf life. Yes, also
Hmm.
another is like even the modeling ingredients mixing to predict the moisture migration, because any mixing like inclusions, like new inclusions, mixing with the current product might be have some motion migration. We definitely use this as a model, this kind of model data to say, to predict how much motion migration, how much if will affect our finished product. Also,
So
also
just to kind of, oh, go ahead.
yeah, also, yeah,
Go ahead.
we're still going to use these tools for evaluating and choose the correct packaging. Yeah, but we don't
Hmm.
use it now. We are looking forward to have a further research, maybe by this kind of isotherm motor or something like that, because packaging seems like another field where we're going to work on.
Yeah, I've watched several videos about Hostess, and a lot of your company's success is related to shelf life and being able to maybe extend the shelf life of your products, or at least early on in R&D, understand what the shelf life may be. So using that isotherm, you can predict the shelf life after a 2-day test once you collect your isotherm, and instead of waiting weeks or months for a physical test. Is that correct?
Correct. So we use this model to know early, to only just like
Hmm.
estimation. Yeah. So because most time, if we want to run our whole shelf life, the little bit to at least 2 or 3 months, so that might be too long for each product. So if we use this technology and tool to predict the shelf life, so when we design, we'll know early. So I think that's a very way to shorten the time and save some timeline.
And I know you haven't had this instrument too long, but do you have any sense of how much faster you can release products now by having this information early? You mentioned 6 months to 2 year timeline to release new products. Do you have any sense on how much faster you may be able to release products now that you have this information really early on in your R&D processes?
We currently we don't have that how much time we were saved by this new tool, but I believe there's kind of way we can save some time. For example, at least for the quality part, if we have
Mm-hmm.
the isotherm motor, instead of like sampling the product and then testing, like use a traditional way to test the motion level and rotating level, so we can collect more data. And the thing is, no, we can award the variations of the sampling. So I think that's for the quality part, they can save a lot of time, because you will sample the ocular space only in 1 minute, they can read their number and get the same number at the same time. But currently, we have to spend maybe 20 to 30 minutes to have our motion levels date. So that can be one
Mm-hmm.
sample can save maybe 20 minutes, and then maybe 10 samples, 200 minutes. So if we calculate this way, we can save a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. So just to kind of summarize this section, where Meter Group is working with your team to master your products in R&D, and some of the things that you listed is that you can use an isotherm that used to take you maybe weeks or months to produce. You can now do that in just a few days. And once you have the isotherm, you can set your product specs to maximize moisture content and prevent mold growth. You can determine your critical water activity points to prevent texture change. You can predict shelf life. You can evaluate and choose your packaging. You can understand the effects of temperature on your products. And you can also model ingredient mixing so that you can understand a new product before you even make it. Did I miss anything from that list?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, that's the way we're doing now. Yeah, so we just use this as a motor. If, for example, if we have one orange flavor, if we want to change it to another flavor and the same format,
Mm-hmm.
but different formula, we definitely can use this kind of motor as a base to predict the new inclusions and the new flavor or just a new product. That can save a lot of time for like a zigzag this way, because when we design it,
Mm-hmm.
we can save some more time before like a discussion or design. I think that's we kind of way it's a very useful.
And it seems like time is everything these days. There's never enough time. So I'm glad to hear that you're able to save time and get these products out even quicker. Next, let's talk about the next aspect of Meter Group, partnering with Hostess to help you improve measuring the water in your products. This is being accomplished using high-resolution isotherms that you're producing using that vapor sorption analyzer, and then you're creating moisture models for your products so that you can get a really high-precision moisture content reading in as fast as 60 seconds. So I'm wondering, how was your team measuring moisture content before you had an Aqualab 3?
Before we have Aqualab 3, we do for the moisture level, we just use like a moisture meter. It's kind of like it's not
Mm-hmm.
it's calculated by the oven standard oven drying method to get the how much loss of the moisture during heating. So that's kind of way like an oven method. But there's like a simple one from there. I think the like a meter moisture moisture meter. So we use our lab and bakery always use this way. Yeah.
And what were some of the challenges associated with that moisture meter or moisture balance, the method that you were using before?
There's some way it might or might be not accurate. The part of reason is if there's a flavors, their condition like the heat, there's just a temperature, setting the temperature and this kind of moisture meter, they have volatile. So the flavor
Mm-hmm.
will be calculated as a lost moisture. So sometimes, for example, the actual moisture is only 20%, but there's a flavor loss. That means 24%.
Mm-hmm.
So from this point, our product moisture range will be broader, because the lower to higher there's a maybe 4% or 2% for 2 or 4% range. So but when I change to use the isotherm motor, they're more accurate. So they're less gap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I generally see this. Any method, moisture meter, moisture balance, an oven method, anytime that heat is applied, just like you said, if you're losing volatile compounds, then when you do your moisture calculation, it's not giving you a very accurate result. And so now you're using the Aqualab 3. It doesn't use any heat. It's using a moisture model, and it's giving you a high precision moisture content measurement. I usually see maybe even as good as 10 times better using the Aqualab 3 for moisture so that you can really pinpoint your moisture content. You mentioned a variation of 2 to 4% for the moisture meter or moisture balance. And this is really common. This is something that I see all the time. But using the Aqualab 3, I'm sure you're able to reduce your variation. Does this help your team to maximize your moisture content, or what are the benefits of having a high precision moisture content measurement?
So that's what help me help that team to moisture level that's more accurate. So they won't have a big gap between the low and the high, because the even 10% or 4% gap will make the texture of the food a lot of difference. That's number one. Number two, by the isotherm technology, use this Aqualab 3, so we can save a lot of time, because the traditional motion meter, if we test one sample high motion everyone, we need at least 20 to 30 minutes. but by the isotherm motor, we only need 1 minute. So there's another advantage. We save a lot of time.
Yeah, kind of back to our earlier discussion, back to time, instead of taking 20 to 30 minutes, 60
right.
seconds. And that means, within an hour, you could do 60 samples instead of maybe 2 or 3 samples. So again, I'm glad that we're able to help you save some time. Are you creating an isotherm model for each of your products or each formulation, or what does that process look like? How do you take how do you create a model, and then how do you plug it into the Aqualab 3?
Actually, I created each product. So, for example, like a cupcake, so we have different flavor of cupcake, like a golden cupcake or original flavor, and chocolate cupcake, or just a birthday cupcake, because the formula is different. The base formula is the same, but the total formula is different. So definitely we use like the cake base, we create each product's isotherm. So if we use each product, like specific products isotherm, we use it and build this kind of product in the Scholar control, the product one. So that's more accurate for the Aqualab to reading each product's water activity and motion level. So I created each product for each isotherm.
And I think this is a really good example of how meters instruments work together. You make your isotherm on your Aqualab VSA, and then you can not only use that for R&D like we've described before, but then you can also use the isotherm, create your model, put it into your Aqualab 3s. So you're also helping quality control or quality assurance when they need to measure water activity and moisture content. Is that correct?
Yes, that's for R&D. For R&D team, we use VSA isotherm to build this motor first. So we validating the isotherm motor is accurate with their current, traditional water activity and their motion level meter way. So after we calibrate, verify this kind of isotherm motor is match our current product. So we use this because they have slope like B0, B1, B2, B3, this kind of correlation date, and we just collect the date in the tool like our VSA tool kit. There's like a product Scholar control. So we have this kind of like a motor on that for the categories of different kind of product. So we use this software and put these coefficient numbers in this software, and then we collect the Aqualab 3. So the Aqualab 3 will use the initial moisture and water activity and offset the line, and then can use this kind of data automatically reading the current food. So that's the way we build the isotherm for the bakery, and the bakery, the operation team, they just use it. They don't need to spend a lot of time zigzag what's the isotherm motor they need to use. So because before they use it, we already calibrate and already verification this isotherm is exactly for this kind of product.
Well, great. So far we've covered mastering your products in R&D. We've gone over measuring and being able to help your quality teams, and they don't have to go select their isotherm. Everything has been done by you. It's uploaded. They simply take their measurement. The last aspect that I wanted to talk about is helping Hostess to manage production so that your team can create perfect products every time while avoiding rework or lost batches. So this is being accomplished by installing a solution that we call Scala Delta T, which automatically adjusts belt speed in a closed loop to ensure that your products are always within spec while reducing variation between products and batch to batch. What are some of the products that your team is using Scala Delta T for at this time?
Actually, this new tool might help our baker in bakery line as Delta T sensor technology. And they reduce the moisture content variations in foods, improving the production efficiency and quality while lowering the energy consumptions and waste. I think that this cut-edge system constantly precisely maintains target moisture content inside, for example, inside a dryer using real-time data and an exclusive control algorithm. I think that Dr. Susan is working with our engineer. I think there's a process engineer in our employer bakery now. So we're looking forward to have some more come up because they just start this year.
Right. I know this is something brand new and maybe even this month is being implemented. And you mentioned my colleague, Dr. Susan Newman. She's in charge of implementing Scala Delta T and getting this hooked up to product lines just like yours. I believe we're starting with donuts for Hostess. And I'm excited to see what happens with your team. I think some of the things that you mentioned are things that you'll see within 30 days, being able to eliminate differences caused by different operators, being able to automatically adjust for changes in your environment, being able to identify a problem as soon as it occurs so that you tackle it and avoid rework or lost batches, optimizing your yields, and again, getting to work with my colleague, Dr. Susan Newman. So I know this is brand new and maybe you don't have all the information since you're in R&D and this is more production associated, but I just wanted to mention it because it really rounds out the story and it helps to show how Meter Group is kind of involved of all aspects of production for your products.
Yeah, actually, I'm very excited to see it because it's a really new technology for us. Where our baker never used this before, but I think that's a very good tool. Can help the quality to control the water activity and moisture level of products. Also, it's a good tool to support the plant on the problem solving and the product analysis. Yeah.
Well, I have just one final question for you, Vivian. I'm just curious, what is your favorite Hostess product and why is it your favorite?
Oh, I really love our trinkets and the jumbo donuts. Yeah, the trinkets, the texture, I like the texture and I like the taste.
Yeah.
You can look at it. You have a lot of cake product, but the trinkets seem like the textures are very different. But it tastes very good. A lot of fun.
I think if I had to pick one, Twinkies would be the way that I go. I have a sweet tooth, so if I eat one, I'll probably eat 4 or 5, to be honest. So I just heard, Vivian, that the original flavor of a Twinkie was banana flavored. Is that correct?
Yes,
do
correct.
you know about that?
Yeah, it's a golden Twinkie vanilla flavor. Yeah, but we still have like a chocolate one, and like a Halloween one, like scary Twinkie. It's kind of fun, but chocolate. but standard is a golden standard. It's a vanilla flavor.
Right. Well, if you're working on a new flavor and you need a taste tester, you have my contact information. So I'd be happy to send you my notes. Well, Vivian, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I've really been looking forward to having you on the podcast. I'm glad we were able to go into depth about all the different ways that Meter Group is working with Hostess to master, measure, and manage your iconic product portfolio. So it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to working with you and your team more in the future.
It's great. Thank you very much.
I'm Zachary Cartwright. This is Water in Food. Find this podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.